All right, welcome into the College Football Roundtable. I am your host, Chris. You can find me on Twitter at CFB07. You can also follow me and my co-host Tyler's Twitter page at CFB07 on Twitter. We got a great guest tonight. We're going to preview the massive matchup between UNLV and Boise State. We had talked earlier in the week, me and Tyler, and we were actually thinking about LSU and Aggies, but we decided to go to the G5. I think that matchup is awesome. It's got huge playoff implications. It's on a Friday night, 10:30, and I just think it's going to be an awesome game. Let's bring Jason to the show. Hey, Jason, how you doing?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. So do you have a podcast you do for UNLV?
Yeah. So I cover UNLV football and basketball. It's called the Let's Run podcast. Kind of about a year ago, I kind of noticed there wasn't a ton of UNLV content being produced. But kind of with the rise of our football program, with the hiring of Barry Odom, and I just thought there was space for it. So it's gone really well. The podcast is doing great, and just really fun to be on shows like this, talking about a great football game this weekend.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I was kind of torn a little bit on the Friday night because we get up so early for our Saturday shows. And, like, part of me likes it being Friday night because it's like a standalone game and they're going to get the attention they deserve versus putting it, like, in the middle of Saturday somewhere in the middle of all the other games. But I'm old and I don't like getting to bed so late, but I'm excited for it. I'm hyped. I would be remiss if I didn't before we got into the football, and I know you may be tired of talking about it, but the you know where I'm going probably.
Oh yeah, I know where you're going. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. Could you kind of just give like UNLV's side of things of that quarterback thing? His name actually escaping me now.
Yeah, Matthew Sluka.
Yeah, Matthew Sluka. Yeah.
So Matthew Sluka was a great player. He was kind of, last year we had recruited the guy that we currently have, Hodge Malik Williams, kind of in January. Matthew Sluka came on a little bit later in the recruiting process. Coach Marion offered him, and when he and Coach Marion were talking, it's pretty obvious that Coach Marion had promised him a couple of things. The first being the starting quarterback position. He came. There was a competition over the summer for the job, but Matthew Sluka was not here for spring ball and for the spring game and that kind of thing. And there was probably also a discussion about some sort of NIL package that was going to be given to Matthew Sluka. There was never any sort of like legal contract between either Sluka or the NIL collective. Sluka had an agent, but the agent was never registered in the state of Nevada. It seems to me and to basically all UNLV fans that Sluka was probably kind of handshake under the table, kind of wink nodded some stuff. But once he got here, I don't think, with his performance the first 3 weeks, I mean, we were 3-0 with him, but UNLV's offense was clearly not performing at its highest level. Sluka kind of said, hey, I felt like I was going to be getting this. And I think that there was also a little bit of writing on the wall with him as our starting quarterback. If you've seen, our team has gotten better really since Sluka has left. So it was kind of a firestorm, in college football. Did we make a mistake? Did he make a mistake? I think there are two big parties at fault, and neither of them is Matthew Sluka. It is our assistant coach, probably, which I don't think our assistant coach is, rare in what he said or promised to Matthew Sluka. I don't think this is something that's uncommon. I'm pretty sure this is happening on pretty much every roster in all of college football. So I think he probably made some errors there. He probably shouldn't have promised him a starting job, especially if the team wasn't going to be bought into him as our starter in the first place. Probably shouldn't have talked NIL with him like he did. And then also Matthew Sluka's representation. They didn't get things in writing. They weren't registered in the state of Nevada. They weren't professional. They were trying to leak things to the media after that were just kind of incorrect. And so I feel really bad for Sluka, but our team's better off without him. And we have been very happy with Hodge Malik Williams, or as we like to call him, the Hodge Mahal. So we've been very happy with Hodge.
That is awesome. That is a sweet nickname. I love that.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
We love him. He's such a great player.
Yeah, I think I try to watch as much G5 as I can. We do we cover everything. So I think I've watched probably like 2 or 3 UNLV games. What would you say, since I haven't watched that many of them, what would you say is the biggest weakness for UNLV right now headed into this game? Something
Sure.
that UNLV fans you would say is super concerned about.
Yeah, so for us, it's defensive scheme. There's some defensive issues. You look, UNLV's been pretty good against the run, technically, throughout the year, but a lot of our games have been kind of blowouts. And so obviously teams are passing a ton against us. However, we have done a pretty good job of keeping guys in front of us and limiting explosive plays. But our defense has been really bad about giving up that kind of 5 to 10 yard intermediate pass. Syracuse came into Vegas and beat us, and it was mostly because Cal McCord, who's a great quarterback, who's at Ohio State, really good player. He threw like 65 times in that
Yeah.
game and just kind of picked our defense apart. Now our defense is really great at creating turnovers, but they kind of sit back in zone and kind of try and trick the opposing quarterback to force a lot of interceptions. And if a quarterback's going to have a great game against us, that makes us very vulnerable to that. So that's probably our biggest weakness. Offensively, I think we're pretty good, honestly. Defensively, we have some great players, but the scheme isn't perfect, and we're vulnerable to consistent offenses because of that.
Yeah, it seems like the offense has less question marks than the defense from everything when I
Mm-hmm.
was researching it seems like the offense kind of just is going pretty good so far.
Yep.
Yeah. So obviously the main focus of this game with everybody on the outside is the amazing running back for Boise State, Genty. And he's done phenomenal. You had said that they've done a pretty good job stopping the run. How do you feel Barry Odom, who's a great defensive mind? I'm an SEC fan, obviously. So I remember him at Missouri and Arkansas. How do you feel? What do you think his game plan and the defense staff's game plan to kind of try to control Genty?
So controlling Genty is impossible. I think that Genty would be a great running back, best running back in the country in any conference that he is in. If he was the running back for Georgia, he would be incredible for them too.
Yes.
So I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that Genty is going to run for, I hope it's not more than 200. I hope it's not more than 220. I mean, he's going to get those yards. It's just going to, come down to the UNLV defense making those yards difficult for him to get. He's going to be able to get them. How difficult are the yards going to be? Every single game, he's like Michael Myers in the backfield. That's the joke that everybody makes. He just kind of stands straight up. And so, every single game, he's getting these 85-yard touchdown runs. UNLV will probably do okay if they can limit him to just one of those, which for any defense is pretty crazy to say. But if we can keep him, at just kind of one breakout run where he breaks through and then make every other carry, those 3 to 7 yard carries that are really tough on a running back's body, that's going to be huge. And the other thing that I would say is UNLV is a top 5 rushing attack by the numbers in the country this year. And so I think that, we're not like Ashton Genty. We have our quarterback's our leading rusher. We have 3 running backs that consistently get touches. It's the go-go offense run by Brennan Marion. And every single person on the team runs. Our wide receiver runs. Our quarterback runs. We have 3 running backs that run. And so it's going to be controlling the clock and kind of putting Boise in situations where they have to throw more. It's not as much stopping Genty on an individual play, although I imagine that, again, the strategy that we've employed of sitting back in zone and keeping plays in front of us, which has made us susceptible to the short pass, is also really good at stopping those kind of explosive long runs. And so I assume that's kind of what the defense is going to be doing. They're going to try and make Boise quarterback Maddox Matson, who's really good, by the way. They're going to try and make him beat them with his arm and limit those Ashton Genty explosive plays.
I'm glad you brought up the Boise State quarterback because I was going to ask you on the Boise side of things. It's obviously Genty gets all the love, and I think the only Boise game I've watched this year was against Oregon, and it was towards the end who else on that Boise State team? Is it Mattis? Is it the quarterback that people should pay attention to?
So they have a tight end, Riley, who's really good, really solid, catches well, moves well, blocks well. My favorite player for Boise that's not named Ashton Genty is a wide receiver they have called Cameron Camper. A really excellent player, gets open. Uh, just for disclosure, I lived in Boise and I grew up a Boise State fan.
Oh,
UNLV. Yeah, so I haven't missed a Boise football game for the last 10, 12 years. I absolutely love Boise State football. It's been a little unfortunate now that our program has kind of gotten better, that the
mhm.
tension between the two fan bases has kind of made that relationship a little awkward, especially as I've started the podcast and covering them.
Oh,
But Boise State, Boise State's a really solid team offensively, and Ashton Genty is the focal point. But I think if you put Boise State in a situation to beat you in other ways, they are capable of doing that. And they won't do it to the same level that Ashton Genty can, but they've got a decent group of receivers, and their quarterback Matson only has one interception on the year, and so they're really careful with the ball. They don't turn it over, which is something that UNLV, I think we're tied number 2 in the country for interceptions overall. We've got 2 guys that have 4. Um, and so that's Jackson Woodard, our middle linebacker, probably our best defensive player, just all around superstar on defense. And then Jalen Catalon, who's a transfer from Texas, who we have absolutely loved at UNLV. So
mhm.
Boise State's a lot more than just Ashton Genty, but this team is set up in a way that really puts him front and center. But if you're not careful, guys like Riley or Cameron Camper, they'll really get you. And Boise's really good at getting at the quarterback too. Their defense is also solid, so it's not just Ashton Genty. There's a lot going on Boise's side.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was listening to I think it was the Andy Staples show earlier today, Andy and Ari, and it feels like a lot of outsiders are sleeping on UNLV. And the reason I say it is because the Vegas line, I don't know if it's changed. I think it was 3.5 at one point, Boise State, and they were talking about that on the Andy Staples show, and the comments, and the point that they were making on the show was how they felt like people, like UNLV can win this game. And then the comments started coming that they were crazy. Boise State's fixing to kill them and all that. Do y'all feel like the casual fan is sleeping on UNLV? Because I personally, and I think we'll preview this game at some point on another show. I I'm leaning UNLV. I'll be honest.
I think that picking UNLV in this game is a mistake. So, and
Oh,
I'm a big UNLV guy. I try my best not to be a homer. In fact, I think Rebel fans prefer it when I pick against us because every time I pick us to win, it doesn't seem to go very well. Um, but Boise State and UNLV met in the Mountain West Championship game last year. Boise State was able to use some really good defense and some really great offensive play calling by Bush Hamden, who's at Kentucky now, um, to really kind of just engineer a perfect game against UNLV last year. And they won 44-20 on our home field last year. Now UNLV is better this year than they were last year for sure. We're healthier than we were last year. It was Barry Odom's first year last year. And you have to understand that UNLV for 50 years was a bottom 5 program. Like UTEP had a better winning percentage than UNLV from 1976 to 2020. And so I think, given Barry Odom another year, I think this team will be better, UNLV. And a lot of the statistics really kind of back up UNLV as a legitimate team too. It's not just like eye test stuff. Like if you look at rushing yards, even our defensive numbers are pretty good. However, I have a moniker with football, and this goes with college basketball as well. I will not pick one team to beat another team until I have seen that team beat the other team. And UNLV's 0-9 against Boise State since they entered the Mountain West Conference. None of the games have been within 2 scores. And so, there are reasons to pick UNLV in this game. Like, I don't want to act like there aren't.
yeah.
But I have about a 10-point Boise State win right now, somewhere in that 44 to 34 range, mid 40s, mid 30s. And I would be surprised if UNLV won this game, although I am fasting and praying and doing everything I can to bring the Almighty into a UNLV victory. But, that's how I feel at the moment. This team is capable of winning. Boise's coming off a bye week. We are coming off of a tough-fought game in Reser Stadium where we beat Oregon State. And so, that's kind of how I'm feeling. UNLV could win. A lot of the UNLV players are feeling very confident in their abilities, but I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, that's funny you say that. So I had that same philosophy with Georgia Bama. I just don't pick Georgia anymore. I'm just like, no, it ain't happening no more. I've been burned way too many times, and so anytime Georgia plays Bama, it's Bama. That's the pick every time. Doesn't matter. I don't care if they're 0-10. I'm picking Bama until I see it. That's so. Malik Williams. How do you pronounce his first name?
Hodge. So Hodge Malik Williams. Yeah.
Okay, Hodge.
He's a 6-year player.
Oh, I didn't know that.
6-year senior.
6 years?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So this is his 6th year. He played in FCS for 5 years for the Campbell Camels, the mighty Campbell Camels.
Wow.
And he's just, he's a great player, really solid, very efficient, not super mistake prone in terms of turning the ball over. He's got excellent legs, excellent decision-making on the run. The go-go offense is kind of like a mix of West Coast offense, the spread, kind of air raid and the triple option. It's a combination of those two things. And Hodge is very good at doing that. His one weakness is dealing with a pass rush. Sometimes his decision-making in dealing with intense pressure from, DB blitzes or, has been a little suspect. In Oregon State, he got us into trouble at the end of that game. We're up 16 with like a minute to go, and he throws a bad interception off of pressure from blitz. So Boise State is one of the best teams in the country in terms, just numbers wise, in terms of getting to the quarterback. And so, guys like Dubar or there's a couple other guys, Ahmed Hassanin, who's another player for Boise State, who's really good at getting to the quarterback. I'm a little concerned about Hodge's ability to deal with pressure, but he is incredibly efficient. And outside of those kind of situations, which I'm hoping he'll be better at this week, he has been just about perfect as a quarterback since he took the reins over from Matthew Sucka, as we like to call him. There's a lot of nicknames we can give to him. We called him Sluka Doncic. That was kind of the great nickname when he was winning for us, but now the nicknames aren't quite as nice.
Yeah, I would imagine. I feel like he seemed like he overplayed his hand there. On that whole deal. I guess the question I get, I've seen after that whole situation was because it seems like Malik is the better quarterback. Why do you think they went with him? Was it just the OC's preference? It was a promise.
They promised him. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like, I think that's what happened. I think he was promised. Hodge outplayed him a lot during summer ball. Towards the end of, right before the season started, Sluka was an incredible runner. I mean, just an absolute gamer. The dude could, if you look at his numbers at Holy Cross, he was putting up video game numbers rushing wise. And so I think he kind of made enough plays right at the end of the summer to justify the OC's promise. But right after Sluka left, you had basically the entire defense, our star receiver, Ricky White, who is, I guess we haven't mentioned him yet, but he's our best player. He's also a fiend on special teams. That's something that Barry Odom has brought to UNLV that has blown my mind. Is I would say there is no team in the country that I trust more on special teams than a Barry Odom coach team, which is pretty remarkable. Ricky White, our wide receiver, has also blocked 3 punts this year.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty smart on him because, coming out of the G5, I think you have to be versatile trying to get into the NFL and proving that you can, not just play wide receiver, but also play on special teams. I think that's going to be valuable for him trying to get into the NFL. But so the whole team rallied around Hodge Malik Williams and said about time right after Sluka left. So there's nothing more to say about it. You wish the kid the best. You hope he
Yeah.
finds a good spot for himself next year. And maybe, I wish he'd come back for his 6th year, honestly. I think we could, because
Yeah.
Hodge is going to graduate. But
Yeah.
that's not happening.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah. I'll get you out of here in just a second. But yeah, you're right. We haven't mentioned Ricky Wright, and we can't. I can't. It would be just a huge disservice not to talk about that kid. He seems. Is he a sophomore or junior? What is
He's a senior. So,
senior? Ah,
yeah, he
I
started
should have
his
known
career at
that.
Michigan State. Yeah, he started his career at Michigan State. Had an okay sophomore. He transferred, had an okay sophomore year, and then last year, he he received 1,487 yards. He was the
Yeah,
leading receiving returner in college football. And the biggest issue with Matthew Sluka was that he could not get the ball to Ricky White. Ricky only had like 130 yards through his first 3 games, and then the last 4 games he's caught like 500. So, um, a lot of respect there. And Ricky White is kind of, obviously it's not the same in terms of production. And Boise State fans, I swear, are looking for any reason to be chapped. And like they're looking at the rocks. Is that disrespect? Oh, can I find some weird comment to coach? It's so irritating because we respect you guys. You're the favorites. We get it. You guys deserve to be the favorites in this game. Goodness, just like so when I say this, I know they're gonna hate this, but like he's kind of our Astringenti. Like he's the leader of our team, not production wise, but in spirit and in leadership. And we couldn't be any happier with him. He's my favorite Rebel, really, probably
yeah,
since I don't know, probably one of our basketball players that's in the NBA right now. So
yeah. He does not seem just a little bit of interviews I watched of him. He doesn't seem like a typical diva wide receiver. Most of them kind of are. He seems very level headed,
yeah,
especially the
and
comment.
just like
Yeah, I love the comment he made about the Caesar or the Vegas guy should give all that money to the O line.
yeah, yeah. And he had so many opportunities. He's like Ashton Genty. He had opportunities to go to basically any school would have taken him. Most schools would have taken him in the country, and given him a good raise in what he's making in NIL right now. But he wanted to finish out his career where he felt like he'd been given the opportunity. And so we're just grateful to have him. He's just a great guy, and hopefully, he can lead us to victory in this game. Again, I don't think so, but I hope that I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, man, before we let you go, I'll ask you one more thing. Can you just tell people? Obviously, I would imagine you're a G5 fan. You love Boise and you cover UNLV. I'm a guy that has probably the last 3 years gotten really into G5 football and really paying more attention to it. It's some really good football, and I try to encourage everybody to get into. I watch FCS now too a lot. Could you just tell the people what makes that that special and why it should be paid attention to more fans like me that are Georgia fans, Alabama fans, LSU fans?
Well, I mean, like it's the same reason why people from the South love Georgia and Bama, and it's regional. Like we don't have a Power Five team in Las Vegas. We have UNLV. Now, do I think UNLV, if it got the casino money behind it, do I think it could leap up into like the Big 12 or
Yeah,
something? Sure, but we're not there yet, and we're not there right now. Um, the NFL, if you look at the draft boards and you look at the players in the NFL, they use the G5 a lot. There's
yeah,
a lot of great G5 players in the NFL. Um, and the level of talent is better just because of the sheer number of people that are on football teams. The level of talent in G5 football is better than people really give it credit for. The competition is better. There's regional rivalries. And if you're a football junkie, if you love your team and you just want to support your team, totally get it. You do your thing. I went to BYU, so I love BYU football as well. But if you're a junkie like I am, and I know like you are, like the level of play will shock you. Ashton Genty is in the Mountain West Conference, not in the SEC, and I think he's the best player in college football. I really do.
without a doubt.
Yeah, I think he is.
Yeah.
Cam Ward's pretty good for Miami. I love Travis Hunter like everybody else does,
Yeah.
but I give the nod to Genty right now. And so if you're a junkie and you love football, you will love the G5. Give it your time. And the Mountain West and Pac-12 split up is all happening right now. So
Yeah.
tensions are high. There's a lot of drama going on. I promise you won't regret putting some time into G5 football.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. I hope that the greedy power decision makers don't do anything stupid with that, because I really enjoy it. It's good stuff, and I would encourage a lot of people to watch it. I personally believe that there's some P4 teams that the G5 is better than, like in the like bottom teams of the ACC.
We beat two Big 12 teams on the road to
Yeah,
start the year. We beat Kansas
exactly.
and Houston. We destroyed Houston. We beat Kansas. Obviously, Kansas loves losing close games, so that's wasn't
Yeah,
a. We should have probably beaten Syracuse. We had a couple dropped interceptions. I mean, credit to them; they came in and won. So I don't want to take anything away from them, but
yeah,
there were a couple plays where it's like, man, you had two interceptions in your hand that would have sealed the game. So, I mean, I think that the top of the G5 certainly is just as competitive as the very bottom of the Power Four. And sometimes you see a team like Boise State barely lose at Oregon.
yeah,
Boise State probably should have won that game.
absolutely.
They had some issues on special teams, like a punt return and a kick return. And if they don't do that, they probably walk out of Autzen with a win. And Oregon's the number one team in the country right now. So um, don't be elitist about your football. Love everything. That doesn't mean love what you already love less. Just open up your arms a little bit more, because there's great football all over America.
Yes, absolutely, and it should include everybody. Well, man, I really appreciate this. You were by far one of my favorite guests. You did an amazing job, man, and I'll definitely be paying way more attention to your work. Can you just tell people before you go where they can find you on Twitter?
Yeah, so just follow me at Jason K Redline is the tag. I did share this onto my feed, copying you onto it. So I hope my followers, that want to know more about college football generally, hope they go to you as well. And UNLV football is on the rise. We play in an NFL stadium, and we're just grateful to have the exposure. So
Awesome. Thanks, Jason, man. This was awesome, man.
thank you. Talk to you.
Yes, sir. All right, that was an awesome interview with Jason. I think that game is just going to be so amazing, y'all, and I'm super excited about it. 10:30 Friday night Eastern time. So let's get into our second segment and the final segment before we leave for the night. We're going to react to our top 25 poll that we do on Twitter. Me, CFB07, Boot, Bus, and a lot of other people. We're gonna I'm gonna try to get it pulled up real quick. All right, let's see. I'm gonna get it. Sorry for the delay. Just give me just a second. Get it pulled up. All right. All right. So this is our top 25 poll that we do every week. Me and I think it's about 13 other guys. So top five, we got Oregon, Georgia, Ohio State, Penn State, Miami, Texas. My personal opinion, I don't really have a problem with that top five. I know a lot of people, some people had Georgia at 3, some people had Ohio State at 2. I think you just flip either one. It wouldn't really be a problem with me. Texas dropped down to 6 after being number 1 in our poll. Don't really have a problem with that. Then we got LSU, Clemson, Tennessee, Iowa State to round up the top 10. Really, really like LSU. I think they're going to keep climbing, especially if they get a big win against the Aggies this weekend. I think that's a team that's really improved since the USC game. Clemson's another one. If you watched the show in the previous weeks, Clemson's a team that I'm starting to get really high on. Schedule I get has been kind of bad, but like I've said on the show before, if you go and watch Clemson, when they were playing bad teams last year, they didn't do really good. Their offense looks really good. I think Garrett Riley's starting to get more comfortable in year 2. Notre Dame, BYU, Texas A&M, Indiana, Kansas State. That's top 15, rounds out the top 15. Indiana's probably the only one I have a problem with. I think they should be way higher. I had them, I believe, 8 in my personal poll. Look, I know their schedule has been a real bad weakness, but they're not just like skating by on teams. Like they're literally destroying them. And I think if you took the Indiana logo off the helmet and you put a Georgia logo or a Bama logo or whatever, they would be like probably number one or at least top five. And I think sometimes we look at the logos and just not watch the games. I think Indiana has done a phenomenal job. I don't think they can win a national championship, obviously, but I think they're a team that can do something in the playoff. Like I said, they're destroying teams, and yeah, I think they're going to present a challenge to Ohio State. I don't necessarily think they'll win, but I think that'll be a good game. So I think they should be higher. I think they should be in the top 10. Kansas State, Alabama dropped all the way to 16. Man, Alabama's just it's not their year this year. Really good team still, and I think the Alabama fans are kind of just getting a rude awakening on the GOAT not being there no more. Then you got Illinois, Boise State, Pittsburgh, Ole Miss, SMU, Missouri, Army, Navy, Vandy. I'm happy to see Vandy in the top 25. I don't think we had them in there last week. I had them in my personal poll last week. Vandy is just an awesome story. 5-2, beat Bama, got a big game against Texas. I don't think they'll be able to pull that off, but for a second time. But you never know. With the way this season's going, anything's possible. Army, Navy, really impressed with Navy. They've looked really good. They got a big game against Notre Dame, which we have at number 11. So yeah, that's our top 25 poll. I really appreciate everybody tuning in tonight to watch the show and with that great interview with Jason. If you could subscribe to our YouTube channel at CFB_season. We do a show Saturday mornings from 8 to 9 Eastern time. And we have it done right before game day. So y'all can watch it and then go right to game day or big noon kick. Also do a show every Wednesday where we preview one big game of the week. We try to get two guests. Boise today we tried to get a Boise State guy, but had a couple back out. So yeah, and then we also do a Sunday show, recap show with me and Season. That'll be me and him on here. Yeah, so y'all have a good night and thank you for watching. And see y'all Saturday.